Welcome to the Deep Dive, the place where we cut through the noise and get straight to the crucial insights from the information you share with us. Today, we're plunging into a really fascinating and sometimes, let's be honest, unsettling topic,
Ah,
the world of human manipulation.
Yeah, it's a big one. We've gone through a compelling stack of material for you, drawing quite a bit from Daniel Spade's How to Analyze People, but also pulling in other research psychological studies, things that really shine a light on, well, the darker corners of how we interact.
Okay?
So our mission for this deep dive is basically to unpack the subtle ways, and maybe the not so subtle ways, our minds get influenced, how to spot the tactics, and really importantly, how you can empower yourself against them.
Right, because you might have had that experience,
Yeah.
right? Walking out of a conversation feeling kind of confused, or maybe you agreed to something you weren't really on board with initially,
Hmm.
or even started doubting your own perception of things. If that sounds familiar, chances are you've probably experienced manipulation.
Yeah.
So this deep dive should give you the tools to identify those moments
Yeah.
and, understand what's actually going on underneath.
It might sound a bit dramatic, but some of our sources suggest that pretty much every waking moment, our minds are being influenced in some way.
Every moment. Wow.
Yeah, and it's not just like individuals trying to persuade you. Think about social media, the news you see online, ads everywhere, even just, everyday chats.
Right.
It's all a form of influence, sometimes even mind control, and often we don't even realize the extent of it.
So it's pervasive.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating here is that the human mind seems to have these, well, let's call them loopholes that make us susceptible.
Loopholes. Okay.
Yeah. The Solomon Asch conformity experiment, it's an older one, 1957, but it offers such a powerful illustration of this vulnerability we seem to have.
Okay, let's unpack this Ash thing for a moment. So in his tests, participants were shown lines
Right.
and asked to match them. Simple enough.
Seems simple, yeah.
But the trick was they were put in a room with other people, aware participants, who were actually in on it and deliberately gave wrong answers. So you, the naive participant, you're the only one seeing something clearly different from what everyone else is saying.
And what Ash found was honestly pretty surprising. 75%, three-quarters, of the naive participants conformed to the clearly wrong group answer at least once.
75%, that's huge.
It is. And on average, they conformed about a third of the time. Now, when these same people were asked individually, without the group pressure, they were 98% accurate.
98%. So they knew the right answer.
They absolutely did, which means people ignored their own clear perception just to go along with the group.
So why, what did the sources say drives that? Why ignore what you know is right?
Well, the material points to basically two main reasons. First, there's this really deep-seated human desire to just fit in, to be part of the group.
Okay, the social pressure.
Right. And second, there's this belief, or maybe a nagging doubt, that perhaps the others in the group are actually smarter or better informed than you are.
Ah, self-doubt creeping in.
Exactly. And this is where it gets relevant to manipulation, because manipulators, they know this. They leverage these tendencies expertly. They play on emotions like guilt or fear.
Like the example of a supervisor hinting at job loss.
That
fear.
Precisely. That fear can absolutely spur compliance, even if the demand is unreasonable. Uncertainty, perceived power dynamics within a group, those also make people much more susceptible.
Okay, so our minds have these vulnerabilities, these sort of loopholes. Who are the people who get really good at exploiting them?
Yeah.
Our sources describe manipulators as, well, sneaky, deceptive, underhanded,
Right.
not really caring much about others' feelings.
Yeah, that's the gist. And they use specific tactics. The sources we looked at break these down into 13 distinct laws of manipulation.
13 laws.
Yeah, and we can see these laws, these tactics playing out all around us. We pulled out a few prominent ones to illustrate.
Good idea.
So, for instance, law number 1, hide your intentions.
Okay.
This is like a boss telling an employee, oh no, don't worry, no layoffs planned, when actually plans are already underway to replace them.
Deceptive reassurance.
Exactly. Or maybe a colleague who conveniently forgets to tell you about a promotion opportunity because they want it for themselves.
Right, withholding information.
Okay.
Okay, what else?
Then there's law number 4, playing victim.
Ah, the victim card.
Yes. This is where someone skillfully uses like a constant string of supposed bad luck or misfortune to get sympathy and attention.
Mm-hmm.
And often it makes you feel guilty for even thinking about bringing up your own problems because theirs are always framed as, 10 times worse.
Yeah, I think we've all met someone like that,
Yeah.
the one-upper in misfortune.
Pretty much. Then law number 6, depend on me.
Okay.
This is about creating a false belief that you need them. They do favors, but there are always hidden strings attached. It's designed to make you feel indebted, controlled.
So the favor isn't really a favor.
Not a genuine one, no. No, it's a hook. Law number 10, playing dumb.
Playing dumb.
Yeah, pretending ignorance or innocence to avoid responsibility. You see this a lot in professional settings, right? Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. Or even in relationships to kind of dodge accountability for starting a fight or telling a lie.
Okay, plausible deniability?
Sort of, yeah. And one more for now. Law 13, controlling your decisions.
Controlling decisions.
It's a cow.
It can be subtle. Dictating choices about who you hang out with, what clothes you wear, even your haircut. Making you feel like your own desires are somehow secondary to theirs. And often they frame it as, love or concern for you. I just want what's best for you.
Right, but it's really about control.
Exactly.
So the word manipulation itself, it just instantly sounds negative, doesn't it? Deceit, exploitation, selfishness. It makes the manipulator sound ruthless and the person manipulated maybe seem foolish. It definitely has those heavy connotations, but what's striking, and something our sources really dig into, is that while manipulation is everywhere, it's not always inherently bad.
Not always bad. How so?
Well, the argument is that the key difference between manipulation and, say, persuasion really boils down to 3 core things.
Yeah, okay, what are they?
First is intention. Is the intention selfish, purely for the manipulator's gain? Or is it well-meaning, potentially for the other person's own good?
Okay, intent matters.
Hugely. Second is honesty. Does the person lie or deceive to get what they want? Or are they generally honest and upfront about their goals?
Honesty, okay. And the third?
Benefit. Who actually benefits from the action? Does it only benefit the manipulator? Or does the person being influenced also stand to gain something positive?
Okay. So think about public health ads trying to get you to quit smoking.
Exactly. That's a form of influence, maybe even manipulation in a technical sense, but the intention is positive. It's for your health. The benefit is meant for you.
Right. Or maybe a good leader trying to motivate their team using positive influence.
Precisely. So that distinction, intent, honesty, benefit, that's really crucial. It's not just the act itself, but the why and the outcome.
That makes sense. It's more nuanced.
It is. But then, just when you think you've got a handle on manipulation, we run into something called the dark triad.
The dark triad. Okay, that sounds ominous.
It is. It refers to 3 distinct but often overlapping personality types.
All right.
Narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. And these traits are often predictors of, well, manipulative, coercive, and sometimes even criminal behavior.
Okay, break those down for us. Narcissism first.
Right. Narcissism, it comes from the Greek myth, Narcissus. It describes people who are, boastful, selfish, arrogant. They really lack empathy, and they're incredibly sensitive to criticism.
Okay.
They're essentially in love with this idealized, often totally unrealistic image of themselves.
Got it. Then Machiavellianism.
Yeah, inspired by Niccolo Machiavelli, the Italian diplomat and writer. These individuals are highly self-interested, very manipulative, often duplicitous, two-faced, and they tend to lack a strong moral compass or deep emotional connection. Their focus is purely on personal gain, and they're willing to deceive to get there.
Calculated and cold, maybe.
That's a good way to put it. And finally, psychopathy.
Okay.
This is characterized by antisocial behavior, often volatility, hostility, and a really profound lack of remorse or empathy. They just don't feel guilt in the way most people do.
Wow. So these 3 overlap, you said.
They often do, yes. And what's really interesting, or maybe disturbing, is that some recent research suggests we should maybe even talk about a dark tetrad, adding sadism into the mix.
Sadism. How does that fit?
Well, think about it like this. A psychopath might hurt someone if it serves a specific purpose, helps them achieve a goal.
Okay.
A narcissist might lash out and hurt someone if their ego feels threatened.
Right.
A Machiavellian type might inflict harm if the perceived benefits outweigh the risk for them personally. But a sadist might actually go out of their way, expend extra energy just to cause harm to someone else because they derive genuine pleasure from it.
That's chilling.
It really is. These traits, whether the triad or tetrad, characterize individuals who tend to view other people not as equals, but as objects. Objects to be used, manipulated, and then often discarded when they're no longer usable.
And this raises a really important question, doesn't it? When
Yeah.
you encounter people in positions of power, maybe certain politicians, lawyers, salespeople, even some leaders, who seem to operate without any remorse or real concern for others.
Exactly. They might be leaning into these darker aspects of human psychology. It's something to be aware of.
Definitely. Okay, so we've talked about manipulators, their tactics,
Mhm.
even these darker personality types.
Yeah.
Let's flip the lens now. How do you know if you are the one being manipulated? What are the signs we should look out for in our own interactions?
That's the crucial next step, right? Recognizing it in your own life. Our sources point to some general clues,
Okay, like what?
like constantly feeling forced to oblige someone or feeling really guilty if you try to say no.
That guilt trip again?
Yes. Or maybe questioning your own judgment after you've spoken with a particular person. Like you walk away feeling confused or unsure of yourself.
Hmm.
Favors that always seem to come with strings attached. Always being blamed for things, even stuff you clearly didn't do.
Mhm.
Or someone who only ever seems to contact you when they need something from you.
The fair weather friend,
Eh,
but with an agenda.
Pretty much. But then the sources get really specific, especially when it comes to romantic relationships, where manipulation can be incredibly damaging.
Okay, this is really important. What are the signs there?
Well, a manipulative partner might frequently lie to make you feel guilty about spending time with friends or family, trying to isolate you.
Controlling your social circle.
Exactly. They might constantly criticize you, your appearance, your choices, your opinions, chipping away at your confidence.
Undermining you.
Yes. They might create mistrust by demanding access to your private things, your phone, your messages, your passwords, often framing it as proof of love or because they've been hurt before.
Ah, using past issues as leverage.
Right. They might talk a lot about protecting you, but really it's about controlling your life, making decisions for you, making you feel dependent on them.
Control disguised as care.
Precisely. They might provoke you deliberately, maybe with lies or exaggerations, just to push your buttons. And then when you react, they act like the victim, hurt by your response.
Turning the tables.
Classic tactic.
Hmm.
And then there's the really heavy emotional blackmail, like saying they'll die without you or they can't live without you to prevent you from leaving.
Wow.
And often they'll twist lies with even more lies, sometimes to the point where you genuinely start to question your own sanity, your own memory of events. That's often called gaslighting.
That sounds incredibly toxic and confusing.
It is. Recognizing these patterns is the first step to breaking free. But sometimes the manipulation isn't just in the words, is it?
No, absolutely not. While words are what we consciously choose, our bodies often give away our true feelings, sometimes without us even realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
There was that famous UCLA research, I think, the one that suggested only about 7% of communication is actually verbal, the words themselves.
Right, 7%. It's surprisingly small.
Yeah, while 55% is body language, and the remaining 38% is tone of voice. So learning to read that huge 55% chunk, the nonverbal stuff, that gives you a massive advantage in understanding what's really going on.
Absolutely. It's like learning a whole other language.
Exactly. And the sources we looked at outline several strategies for analyzing body language, basically from head to toe.
Okay, give us some examples.
All right, so think about posture. If someone's leaning away from you while you talk, it could signal discomfort or disagreement, even if they're nodding. A hunched posture might suggest insecurity or feeling defensive.
Subtle but telling.
Yeah. Then there's the face. Someone might say yes, but if their lips are pursed or their jaws clenched tight, it probably signals reluctance, right? They're not really on board.
Or the body says no.
Exactly. Or the classic fake smile, the one that doesn't quite reach the eyes, doesn't create those little crinkles at the corners.
Right. The Duchenne smile versus the fake one.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
Then look at the eyes. Now, we often think liars avoid eye contact, and sometimes they do. But skillful liars,
Yeah.
interestingly, might actually overcompensate.
Mm-hmm.
They might hold eye contact for an uncomfortably long time, trying too hard to seem truthful.
Ah, so too much eye contact can also be a red flag.
It can be, yeah. And then there are micro-expressions. These are fascinating.
Oh yeah, those fleeting looks.
Tiny, almost invisible facial movements, usually around the mouth and eyes, that flash across the face for just a fraction of a second. They can betray hidden emotions like fear, anxiety, disgust, or even a lie, especially when someone is actively trying to hide how they really feel.
Hard to control those completely.
Very hard. And finally, just one more example, the arm cross. We all do it sometimes, but often it signals that someone is kind of closed off emotionally, mentally, maybe even physically distancing themselves,
Even if they're smiling.
even if they're smiling. And some research apparently showed that negotiations are actually less likely to succeed If one or both people have their arms or legs crossed, it creates a barrier.
Interesting. So beyond these specific visual cues, the sources also talk about paying attention to sort of emotional energy and your own intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you just get a vibe from someone, right?
Yeah.
Like a constant dark cloud around them. That feeling, that intuition shouldn't be dismissed. It might be picking up on a pattern of negativity or, manipulation. Even if you can't pinpoint a specific gesture, trusting your gut is important here.
Definitely. So body language is huge, but the gateway to someone's mind isn't just their body, right? Words still matter, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. Words are crucial. And you can analyze how people use words, too.
Okay, like what should we listen for?
Well, when you're analyzing words, listen for things like repeated questions. Someone asking the same question over might just be buying time to think up a convincing lie.
Stalling tactic.
Could be. Also, watch out for qualifiers like, well, to the best of my knowledge, or as far as I recall. Sometimes they're genuine, but they can also be used to create wiggle room if a lie is exposed later.
Mm-hmm. Hedging their bets.
Yeah. And avoiding the word I,
Yeah.
shifting blame or responsibility, or using softer euphemistic words like saying they borrowed something when they really mean they stole it.
Minimizing the action.
Exactly. And of course, like we mentioned with tone of voice being 38% of communication, a sudden change in vocal pitch or tone can definitely signal discomfort or a potential lie.
Right, the voice betrays the nerves sometimes.
For sure. Now, our sources also touched on something kind of intriguing, though maybe a bit more controversial. Analyzing handwriting. Graphology.
Ah, graphology. Yeah, that's always a fascinating topic. What did the sources say?
Well, proponents claim you can glean over 5,000 personality traits from handwriting. Now, the scientific consensus on its reliability is definitely mixed. Let's be clear about that.
Right, it's not exactly hard science for many.
No. But the idea is that things like the size of your letters, larger letters, supposedly indicating a bigger, more outgoing personality, smaller print suggesting introversion,
Okay.
the space between your words, the slant of the writing, how hard you press the pen, even how you dot your I's or cross your T's, and how legible your signature is. All these things are interpreted by graphologists as clues to personality.
Interesting concept, even if debatable.
Yeah.
What else influences how we perceive someone?
Something we often overlook, apparently, is the environment itself.
The environment. How so?
Well, think about it. A warm, comfortable, inviting space tends to encourage more open interaction, right? People relax.
Makes sense.
Whereas a crowded, noisy, or uncomfortable environment can make people feel agitated, stressed, or defensive, regardless of the actual conversation.
So if someone seems uncomfortable, it might not be you or the topic, it could just be the room they're in.
Exactly. So when you're analyzing someone's reaction, it's important to consider, is their discomfort genuinely about the discussion? Or could it be influenced by the noisy cafe or the stuffy meeting room? It adds another layer.
That's a really good point. Context matters.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered identifying manipulators, their tactics, reading the signs. Now, for maybe the hardest part, what do you do about it? This is where the rubber meets the road, right? Dealing with manipulators, especially if they're people you know well, maybe even care about, that's incredibly challenging.
It really is. But the sources are very clear on one thing. You have fundamental rights in any relationship, any interaction, and no one has the right to disregard those.
Okay, what are those fundamental rights? Let's remind ourselves.
You have the right to be respected. Simple as that. You have the right to express your emotions, your opinions, your wants, your needs. You have the right to set your own priorities. You have the right to say no without feeling guilty.
That's a big one, saying no without guilt.
Huge. And you have the right to protect yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. Ultimately, your happiness and your well-being are your responsibility.
Okay, those are powerful reminders. So, knowing those rights, what are some practical steps the sources suggest for actually managing manipulators in your life?
Right, the practical side. First, and maybe most obviously if possible, stay away from them.
Just cut contact.
If they're not immediate family or someone you have to interact with, yeah, seriously, consider cutting ties or significantly limiting contact. If they are family, or say a coworker, then minimize contact as much as you can. Avoid being alone with them whenever possible.
Create distance. Okay. Well,
Defend yourself against bullying. Manipulators often use bullying tactics, but they're frequently described as cowards underneath.
really?
Yeah. When you actually stand up to them calmly and firmly, they often back down because they don't want their true manipulative nature exposed publicly.
So don't be afraid to push back respectfully.
Exactly. Also, don't let them pressure you into making quick decisions or agreements. Be firm. Just saying something simple like, I'll need some time to think about that, or I'll get back to you, it buys you space. Remember, your no is a complete sentence and it's valid, even if they try to make you feel guilty about it.
Right. Which leads to the next point, I guess. Learn how to say no.
Absolutely crucial. It's not about trying to upset them. It's about respecting yourself, your time, your energy, and setting necessary limits. Your needs have to come first sometimes.
Okay. What about trying to reason with them or pointing out their manipulation?
See, the sources generally advise against that. Don't try to correct them or get drawn into arguing about their behavior.
Why not? Seems logical to call them out.
Because it's often a trap. They want to draw you into confusing arguments. They want to figure out what pushes your buttons, what your vulnerabilities are. Engaging on their terms is usually a losing game. Just disengage from that kind of debate.
Don't take the bait.
Exactly. And related to that, don't doubt yourself. This is precisely what manipulators want. They want you questioning your reality, your judgment, your worth. Believe in your own perception and your right to feel the way you do.
Trust your gut feeling.
Yes. Another powerful thing is to have your own purpose. When you have a strong sense of your own goals, values, and direction in life, you're just significantly less susceptible to being pulled off course by someone else's agenda or their attempts to control you.
Makes sense. You're anchored.
You're anchored. And finally, for those relationships you can't easily exit, maybe family or a long-term colleague, determine your boundaries.
Okay, setting boundaries. How?
It might mean reframing your expectations of that person. Don't expect them to change fundamentally. And then enforce small, clear boundaries gradually. Maybe it's deciding not to discuss certain topics with them or making a point to seek advice from others instead of relying on them. Baby steps can make a big difference.
So it's about managing the interaction, not necessarily fixing the person.
Exactly. And there's another really powerful tool the sources mention: learning to invalidate conversations with manipulators.
Invalidate conversations. What does that mean? It sounds a bit harsh.
Yeah, the term sounds strong, but it's not about being emotionally abusive back. It's about taking back control of the interaction, refusing to play their game.
Okay, give me an example.
All right. Say a manipulative coworker tries to guilt trip you into taking on their work by sighing loudly and saying, "Ugh, I'm just so frustrated that nobody ever helps me out around here."
Okay, laying it on thick.
Right. Instead of defending yourself or apologizing, you could simply invalidate that manipulative bid by redirecting the conversation completely. You could say, "Speaking of workload, did you see the latest progress report on the group project? Looks like we're on track." You just don't acknowledge the guilt trip at all.
Just pivot. Don't
Yeah.
engage with the manipulation itself.
Exactly. Or if they try to tell you their way of doing something is the only right way, you could assert calmly, "I respect that's how you see it, but I'm actually quite confident my solution is going to work just as well."
So you're asserting your own view without getting into a fight about who's right.
Precisely. It shows them you won't be easily pushed around, and their usual tactics aren't having the intended effect on you. It's about reclaiming your power in the conversation.
That makes a lot of sense. It's subtle but powerful.
It can be very effective.
Okay, wow. This deep dive has really shown us that manipulation is, it's a complex force, isn't it? It's present in those tiny subtle cues we talked about, but also in grander societal schemes.
Absolutely. But the key takeaway, I think, is that by understanding those loopholes in our own minds, by learning to recognize the tactics manipulators use, and crucially, by asserting your own fundamental rights, you really can navigate these currents with much greater awareness and resilience.
Yeah, the ability to analyze people, to read that body language, see through the manipulative words. It really empowers you, doesn't it? It helps restore balance in relationships.
It does. It gives you the confidence to say no without that crippling guilt, and to set priorities that actually align with your own intentions, not someone else's.
So the knowledge we've explored today, it gives everyone listening the tools to identify these tactics when they're used against them. But interestingly, it also means you now understand how these tactics actually work on a psychological level.
That's true. Knowledge is power, but it can be used in different ways.
Exactly. And then that raises, I think, an important final question for you, the listener, to consider as you move forward with this understanding. How will you ensure that you continue to treat every person you interact with as an equal individual, someone who deserves the fundamental right to be respected and given the freedom of their own choices?
That's a really powerful thought to end on. Using this knowledge ethically and respectfully.
Yeah. something to definitely keep in mind.